But it's all right. What's the scene? Is it sunny out? Is it sunny and smoggy? Is it oppressively dark and rainy all the time? Because that's also going to
Yeah,
affect the characters along
Right.
with the
that's a
setting.
really good
You
point.
know, you find me someone who's in a mega city in 2074 where it's been raining for 6 months, and they're probably not going to be like, "Ah, it's a great day," you know.
Welcome back to the Men's Adventure Fiction Podcast. We are back with a guest. It's been a hot minute, but we're very happy to have guests back. I'll send it over to you, Luke.
Yeah, man, this is exciting. Like you said, we haven't done, I feel like, a guest in a very long time, and it's a great guest to have, Zach James. Welcome back. I'm excited to be talking with a very prolific author. But I think about authors a lot, and as far as like output, and you're one of the guys who just has a relentless pace. I mean, how many books have you written even in the last like 2 years? Because if it feels like there's always a book you're writing, always a book you're putting out.
Well, first off, it's true, and I'm happy to be back. It's always a great time to talk with you guys. How many books have I written in the past year? I think 3.
That's
but how many?
fantastic
But,
numbers.
but how many books am I writing at any time? I think the number is probably close to about 14 or 15. And it goes even higher if you're counting just note taking and pointing out for the future.
That's wild. What's your, with that many spinning plates, what does your writing routine look like? I mean, what does your writing process kind of fall into? Is it just sporadic here and there, or what?
So a lot of it is, now that I've fallen into a rhythm where I'm not trying to put out 1 or 2 a year, the ones that I've got are pretty much set right now. I just write whatever I feel like.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
and if I start getting bored with it, or if I start hitting some writer's block, I'll pivot to another one. Or if I am just really feeling one that I haven't actually started as a project yet, I'll go and I'll just start messing with my notes or start doing more research to add to that. I've got one that's like an 80-page just reference document right now.
That's insane.
So things like that. Or I go and I've got my little black notebook that I keep next to my bed, and I'll start trying to transcribe my late night chicken scratch onto a Word document. So that way, if something happens, someone can actually read it and not need a decoder ring to figure out my hieroglyphic terrible handwriting.
Dude, that's a great point, because I carry this guy around, and like sometimes I'm going back to look at my notes and I'm like, don't know what that's supposed to be. I don't know what I was trying to say. That's gone forever now. So I got to sometimes be a little more careful with my own handwriting.
Well, even just the idea of like you write something down and you're like, I'll remember what this is when the time comes. Don't remember it ever 100% of the time. I was doing we have a Bible study going on, and I was writing down like little notes for questions, and I had the number 120 down. I was like, is this a first reference? Is this a actual number? What? I got no clue what this means. And I remember the night before writing it down, thinking like, yeah, that's perfect. I know exactly what that'll mean. Nothing. So even without the chicken scratch, you can still put yourself in a bad spot with the notes.
That's why my favorite episode of Seinfeld is the one where he like wrote down the perfect joke the night before and he just can't figure it out. It's so relatable, especially as a writer nowadays.
Yeah.
And it's not just writing too. I'll do because I used to be cursed with the affliction of always having good ideas when I couldn't write them down, which was when I was falling asleep in the shower or driving, especially on longer drives. And so what I started doing with driving is I'll just I do the voice notes on my phone. I'm just yelling ideas to my future self. And a lot of times I'll be like, at the end, I'll say to myself, you'll know what you mean. And I'd say 9 times out of 10, I get it. But there's sometimes where I'm like, what the hell was I talking about?
Yeah, dude, before I pitch this to you, Nathaniel, to talk a bit more about like the voice writing, because you actually do that a significant amount. I will say, Zach, same, I've done that before too. I have so many videos on my camera reel, because I don't even go into like the voice memos or anything. I just have the camera just shooting at like my legs while I'm driving, because I'm like, all right, story idea here. And then to your point, sometimes I'll like throw something in it's a quick video, and I'll go back to it, and I'll be like, "What? What? I mean, what was I even trying to say?" It feels like when you're explaining a dream to somebody, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Okay, that was terrible. What are you stopping?" In the moment, I was really confident that it was fantastic. But yeah, Nathaniel, you do that for a large portion of your writing, right? Like the voice memo guy.
Yeah, I think I've even found out. I think perfect situation for me to write would be sitting in the shed smoking some sort of tobacco, writing. And I'm really, really bad at using a computer keyboard, so I actually do most of my typing on a phone keyboard. But there'll even be times there where I'm sitting there writing, and the idea is just going, and the story's like unfolding in my mind's eye so quickly that I just have to stop and start like voice typing because my fingers can't keep up with it. So it's really more out of desperation than anything else. It's like, all right, I'm too slow. I gotta get this out of my mind as quick as possible. So yeah, the problem with the voice typing or voice memo thing is that the whoever it is that's transcribing it in the phone, whoever that little guy is, he's doing a terrible job. It never comes across right. So I remember any time that I would say "and then," because every first draft that I has a lot of "and thens" in there. Every single time it was saying Aunt Jen. And I was like, who the hell is Aunt Jen? She's the most important character in the story. Like,
That's amazing.
was she like, oh, it's "and then"? Are you kidding me? This is like absurd. So yeah,
Aunt Jen's the next femme fatale in the upcoming Nate
so.
Colt sequel.
Yeah, you're gonna have to make it happen at this point.
I guess so.
The universe is forcing it.
It's crazy. I don't know. I do agree though. When you have an idea, you got to get that idea down, even if it doesn't mean anything to you in the moment. Because that's the other thing too. I've returned to notes or ideas that I've had before that I could not crack the code on, and then it becomes almost like a case.
Yeah, like, mystery, dude.
What is this? I gotta figure it out.
Good old Stephen King, I think, is the one who's like, don't write things down because if it's good enough, you'll remember it. Disagree wholeheartedly because there's so many. My brain doesn't work like that. There's too many stupid things that'll take the place of the good idea. I'll remember some random fact about Rocky 3 forever, and then that'll get in the way of a story idea.
The Rocky 3 brain. That'll do it to you. So
why did I just have Clubber Lang written 27 times? Notepad.
So you are. It seems like you are then a very, very much an outliner kind of guy. Do you ever write without outlining? And if so, what does that look like? How's that all work for you?
Yeah, I've done the pantser approach before. Actually, Persona non grata was almost entirely pantsered.
Dude, that's nuts.
whatever the
English.
You flew
it. And so what I'll do with that?
Well, that's crazy because I mean I've got it right here. This is a big old book to be just making up on the spot, dude. That's nuts.
So, pardon me. How I did that one and a few of the other earlier works that I've done that I didn't outline so much is I still kind of pseudo outlined it. It was basically like, all right, what's the next big set piece? Let's say.
Mm-hmm.
All right, boom. What's that going to lead to? Boom. What's that going to lead to? Boom. And I've got an idea for an ending that we'll put way over here.
Yeah.
All right, what needs to happen to get to that set piece?
That's cool.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then from there, I would just write whatever felt natural to get from subpoint A to subpoint B to subpoint C to set piece 1. And then all the way through set piece 2, all the way through the end.
Well, that's really cool.
Whatever felt natural.
Yeah, that's super interesting. That's something that I've always been interested to do for myself, is just pick 3 random things and put them in beginning, middle, and end and be like, all right, I got to write to it. Let's figure out how it goes. So it's cool to see you actually doing that in some form where it's like, all right, well, this ending's way over there. I got to get there somehow, but this set piece may be so far removed. So that's really cool. That's like, yeah, like you said, it's sort of like a pseudo outline, but it's like writing in Discovery to get to where you need to go. So you have directions, but not set.
It's absolutely just I have a skeleton and a general deal. I got to go north. I'm going to go north. Whereas this other project that I'm bullet pointing out that I'm forcing myself to wait another 2 years before I actually start writing, The one with the 80-page reference document. That's like, okay, I've got to go this way. There's this much altitude. I'm at 267 degrees. I've got the backpack on. I'm ready to go on the expedition, but I have everything prepared in the meantime. And there's still going to be some elements of you just get those stray voltage lightning bolts of, this is a cool idea. I'm going to throw that in there. That's naturally happens when you're writing.
You got to be flexible enough to roll with the punches for sure.
Exactly.
Is there a reason you had forcing yourself to wait 2 more years? Like, is that allowed to be disclosed?
Honestly, 2 years is just an arbitrary number at this point. It's more so I want to make sure that I have, realistically, it comes down to, I want to make sure that I have both the time and the maturity to put into this story because this one, I'll give you just a general hint. So it's another sci-fi thing, completely removed from the Hostile Universe novel, but it's going to be an epic, and it's going to explore a lot of themes that I want to make sure I do my due diligence in exploring those myself, and a lot of the historical stuff that plays into the far future, but also not kind of thing of like, hey, it's like Knights of the Round Table with all the pomp and circumstance, but then when they go to battle, they're dropping in from low orbit and they have rail guns. So
that's super cool.
Making sure that I have that blend while also, I don't know, just making sure that I can craft the best product I can for the readers while also not taking 12 years like Persona non grata did.
Dude, fantastic point about being ready for it yourself. I think I say like right book, wrong time in terms of reading and for writing. I think it's true. Like sometimes I'll pick up a book to read and I'll be like, it's not vibing with me, and then I pick it up 3 years later and it's like, wow, this is my favorite book. Same thing with writing. I think like I thought the boxing story, my like boxing novel, was gonna be the first thing I ever wrote, but then to your point, I just realized I'm not mature enough. Like I'm trying to write ahead to something I haven't lived or experienced or learned yet, so I can't really do that, and it's not going to be correct if I do it. It's going to be less mature, like you said, not the best product for the people version of it. So I think that's important to sometimes, and that's why you write 15 books at once, right? It's because you can find the one that's like, all right, this one is where I'm at now. I like this.
Exactly.
This will work.
You know, where's my mindset at right now?
People get locked way too into like, this is my, at least I did, and like my friend group, like you'd think this is my story, like this is my one, this is my story, and then you really get rigid, and I don't know, it took a lot of years away from my ability to keep producing new stories because I was married to this boxing idea. It's like, I had to move on.
Yeah, that's super interesting. It triggered something in my mind that thinking about having just spent a lot of time writing a younger character in Nate Colt, I had this kind of like process of almost the opposite thing of like where you guys are talking about being more mature to tell a story. And I think every year I grow older, I don't know if this has to do with just the fact that like there was a point in time where I figured I would understand what was going on and how to process everything better. And every year I turn older, I still don't feel like I fully have a handle on it. And I think that
as the oldest of the three of us, that never actually clicks. So,
all right, cool. So that's kind of what the point that I'm making is that retroactively now, even thinking of, I'm 28, even thinking of writing Nate Colt as 27 years old, I'm like, well, I'm 28 and I don't know what's going on. He's going to be cooked at 27. Imagine him at 23. Imagine him at 22. But then I'm able to like pull myself out and think back to when I was. You think you're invincible at 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and you also made it through those times. So I think that there's definitely something going on in the mind where as soon as you become an age, you're like anything under that's like an idiot. It's got to be like, oh, you're 27 or below, you must not have a brain. So that's
why I always say that I didn't gain sentience till I was about 28 years old.
Well,
feel that way sometimes.
It's right around the corner for me, and I'm not sure I'm prepared. But all of that is to kind of circle around to ask you guys. We all have many characters of varying ages throughout the stuff that we've written. What do you guys think is kind of like the point in time where a character can really be fully like coming into themselves? And then also, back half question after we get through the character side of things, when do you think as a writer you kind of come into yourself? Because like you said, you're waiting to be mature in this aspect, but you've written a bunch of stuff that's fantastic. So you were definitely mature enough to write that then. You know what I mean? So I'll send it over to you, Zach. You can start since the guest gets to go first.
Guest of honor.
I'll take it. So for the character, I think it depends entirely on the character. And I don't think there's a set age that applies. I think each character is individual. Dominic Santorini, persona non grata, he's 25 to 26 years old in that story. And I was kind of chuckling inside when you were talking about Nate Colt being younger than you, because when I first started writing Dominic, I was about 21 years old. And then I wrote him all the way through my 20s until I released it, what was that, late 2023, 2024?
Yeah, I think it was 4.
So I was 31 years old at that point. And it was so funny being like, this is what I think it'll be like when I'm 25. This is what it's actually like when I'm 25. Oh, that's what it was like when I was 25. And
every year after 25, he got stupider as you were writing him. Like, what's he doing?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of jokes to be made there. But with that, I would say he came into his own in a different way than, say, Alex Foley did. Because even though they both experienced different styles of childhood trauma, I would say it affected Dominic Santorini in a way where he is kind of cold and emotionally mature in that like closed off way. Whereas with Alex Foley, he matured because it gave him a purpose. So I think it all depends on, and you guys as writers know this, we put so much effort into the backstory that's never even touched on for our characters, but we know what makes them tick up here. So to give kind of a cop-out answer, I don't think there's a specific age. I think that age for the character coming into themselves more so is about us as the writer coming into ourselves and understanding how the world works in our worldview, etc.
Yeah.
To be a little long-winded. I think I answered the question.
Yeah,
that's amazing. I was ready to settle in and listen to like a 90-minute lecture version of that. I love that.
Well, so I guess the second part of the question is for myself. I'd say it's a never-ending process of growth, and because I look back on some things that I wrote when I was younger, I'm like, ugh, like I should have changed that, or I should have written that, but I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Which I also think is a part of growth as both a writer and a human being, is being able to look back on stupid stuff you used to do and just cringe. Be like, I hope no one sees that part. But I would say too, it comes with that, the maturity aspect of continuously improving, continuously learning, because then it gives you those other external and, if you're lucky enough, internal factors to consider that you can then put into your characters.
Yeah.
I would also say the external factors being, so a lot of my older characters that I'll write, generational or whatever, I look to the older members of my family, especially if they're like older men who, you know, if they're always in my stories, these warrior types, etc. Well, I look toward my father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, and how are they? And then I'll kind of, okay, what are the aspects of them that I want to take, their wisdom, their knowledge, their dispositions, their attitudes, etc. Maybe blend it with some of mine or something idealistic, mix it all up, spit out a generic idea of a character, and then workshop it from there. And
very cool.
Maybe, again, goes back to that backstory of characters that the reader may never know unless we exposition dump it. But we're aware of, okay, this happened, which affected them, which is why they have this tick or this proclivity. Things like that. Those are the factors I would say contribute to both myself and the characters in reaching those, I guess, emotional milestones would be the best way to describe it, that make them tick.
Very cool. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Way more eloquent than I could ever say it, and I resonate 400%. So just take the audio he did. I'll move my mouth for about a couple minutes. Right, you blare it in, and I'll take that answer too. That was fantastic. But I agree with you. It's like it's so character driven, definitely, for like when they mature. Because I think of my two favorite characters that I've written are Dante and Noah, and it's like I think Dante probably didn't mature until like his late 50s, like in that sense. Like I think he didn't really come into his own until his late 50s or so. Again, to Zach's point, it's like I know kind of his backstory in my head and I've seen it and wrote a prequel to it that it got splashed with water and destroyed with the laptop, so that's gone. But that'll be back at some point. But it's like I know his path to why it took so long and why he was the way he was for so long. And then with Noah, it's like with Odyssey of Fire, you'll see a good portion of him like growing into himself. But I think it's more so around like 30 or something that he kind of felt fully formed, probably in himself. And that's because a totally different experience than Dante, totally different people around him, totally different. He didn't end up in prison. He didn't lose his son. Like there's not all the same things that happened to Dante. So definitely character is what defines that. And then, I think the most important aspect of being able to do that goes back to what Zach was saying, like the internal stuff for you and growth as a person and exploration as a person. If I'm not insightfully looking at people in my life, myself, the world around me, I can't really build a perspective or a worldview that would have anything to say on any of these people or things. They would all be just like cardboard cutouts or versions of things I've seen on TV. It's like I also pull a lot. This is why I was like, you could just use Zach's audio; it's better. But like, I also use a lot of people from my life. Like a lot of what comes from Dante is like things that have pulled from my dad and his dad, a little bit of Casey. It's like Noah is what I would hope to be, like it's a kind of an idealistic version, which brings me, I'll get to it later because we're in your question right now, but I do have a question that I wanted to ask you guys about like that. But I do think Noah's kind of like me. If I could be the ideal, what would that look like? And so I can't build an ideal for myself or really understand why I think my ideal is what it is if I don't have perspective and I'm not looking at, different ways of viewing the world that aren't even just the ones I agree with, the ones I disagree with, the ones that don't make sense to me. Like I like looking at a full picture because it helps me make a fuller character. So that's the less cool version of that answer. But I like what Zach said. What is your answer, Nathaniel?
It will be tough to follow you two guys and not say anything similar. So I've been listening, but also think
make it different.
Yeah, I think for me, it gets back to kind of like for a character and how young can they be to be a badass? How young can they be to come into themselves? Really kind of goes all the way back to the culture they're raised in. And that could be familial culture or it could be where they are. Like you guys both gave two examples of your characters, so I'll work off with two as well. You have the Giacomo Ferrantino who at like 14 or 15, his dad dies and he's now the man of the house. So I think he becomes fully formed as a man at like 16 years old. And I think he's good to go, and I think that that's because of the fact that he had to be hardened by his environment and he kind of was just built for one purpose, and that's to be this machine like guy who's able to fight bad guys. And he develops as a man when he meets like a romantic interest and things flower from there. But I think the actual just like, I can handle myself in any situation happens very early for him. Whereas you see Nate Colt in Crime Is My Caper he has a familial culture, but he has a mom and a dad. And when he loses his dad, which is, it's not a spoiler, it's all over the web series, that sends him into a tailspin. And as things unfold before him, he doesn't have the same sort of reaction that Jock does because he grew up in kind of a more sheltered, easier life. And so he's still capable of badass stuff, but his mind's all messed up. He's like, bro, what the hell's going on? Like, am I a good guy? Am I a bad guy? Do I want to be a bad guy? Do I want to be a good guy? And so I think that it's like, because I always get back to the reason I bring this up is because you think of like the Louis L'Amour books that we talk about all the time. You have characters in there who are like 16 years old and they are a man, but then you have people today in our day and age who don't become men until they're in their mid to late 30s, they haven't really like fully gone through adolescence until further on. And it's because our lives are so easy, that it's really hard to find challenge that you have to face outside of yourself. I mean, everything now is so like interior, and you're fighting through all these things because you just have so much more time on your hand. Whereas like if you were a 16-year-old in the Old West, you were riding for the Pony Express. You know, you weren't thinking like, oh, I wonder if they're going to like my Instagram post and if that means they like me. You were thinking like, damn, is that Indian going to kill me right now? Like, is he going to take the mail from me and I'm going to lose my job and probably die? You know, you were so outside of yourself. So I think that for me, the character thing, like you guys said, just to reiterate it, it's so fluid, you know, and it really, I think it goes back to the culture that the character is born in, because they could be 45 before they're able to handle a badass situation, or they could be 12, you know, it just depends on how they were raised. As far as the writer situation goes, I think you can be a good writer right from the rip. But to your guys' point, I think that theoretically everything you release should be better because you grow hopefully as a person every time. I mean, it takes what? Realistically, if you're not an absolute madman, it takes at least 3 months, 4 months to put out a book, right? You're not just dropping a book every like month. So theoretically, in that space, even if you wrote something, you wrote like 5 books at the start and you're working through them and dropping them, you are editing them and you have grown as a person since you last wrote it. And so every single growth as a person should add more to your book. Like I think you could probably write something like not to rag on the executioner, but a nice like popcorn executioner thing and write just as well as Don Pendleton as the first book you ever release. But if you continue to work at the craft and continue to work on yourself as a person, every book should theoretically get better. So I guess my answer is there is no coming into your own as an author, because you'll always be coming into your own as an author, kind of.
Same thing with being a person too. It's like a continual becoming. Hopefully there's never like, I arrived, I'm the guy. How you doing? Yeah. Nice to meet you. I was like,
the day I'm stagnant is the day that I'm dead.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Very well said. Yes. So thank you guys for those answers. They were super informative. I really enjoy hearing, because it's cool to hear you guys talking about characters and also talking as writers, but truly, you guys are some sick dudes. So it's cool hearing you talk as people too, you know, because all of your conversations touched back on like, yeah, this is about how I've grown as a person too. So
right.
Good stuff.
Dude, and for writers too, like what you were saying about every time it should get better. I think it's important to know that you can edit it to a point, and then you should definitely still like have the courage to put it out there and then continue to move forward with your career.
1,000%.
Yeah, because you could definitely get caught up with like the fear of, I got to keep re-editing it. I'm not there yet, and you will.
Yeah, you release like
you'll be a new writer. You'll be a new
100 books when you're 70 years old.
Yeah,
it's like Nathaniel said on the podcast one time: the longer you wait, the better the books get.
Right,
it's like a fine wine.
Exactly. You gotta send it, and you can look back. And to your point, Zach, earlier about like if you have a strong enough sense of self and like your self-esteem isn't in the dumpies, you can definitely look at it and be like, all right, yeah, I could have done better on that. Sorry, my bad. But like, move on. Like, I'm writing better books now. I like this, whatever.
And it's a double-edged thing. It's not supposed to be entirely negative. Like, oh, what was I doing back then? Like, that's a good reaction to have, but it's also then good to look at it and be like, man, look how far I've come compared to how I was.
Yeah, you can look at the growth and see it in real time. And if you don't put anything out, you won't see that growth. You'll just continue to spin your wheels right there with the same draft forever.
You'll be stuck in what I think is a fate worse than death, which is the cycle of coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially because when your time comes, you're going to be like, no, I should have. Like, you're definitely not going to be like, no, I should have edited some more. You're going to be like, I should have sent it.
I saw someone post, it might have been Donald Glover said something like, no one on their deathbed thought, I wish I hadn't been so cringy, you know? And that gets like straight to the heart of what you guys are saying. No one's on their deathbed thinking like, damn, I wish I hadn't released 16 books. That was a huge mistake. They're definitely thinking, man, I wish I'd released 16 more, you know? So super, super smart stuff coming from these guys. Dude. It's too much. You said you had another question though, Luke. And
I was
super interesting.
As we're talking about characters, I'm curious, like, do you guys see your characters as like alternate versions of yourself, or are they more so like experiments with those worldviews, like testing out different philosophies in characters, like which version or both maybe fall true to you. Zach's the guest of honor, so unfortunately he has to answer first.
Oh no!
Although we keep putting ourselves in a bad spot by having him answer first.
Oh, I know he's going to take the good answers too. That we're just copying and pasting.
Rambling.
He always says the thing that I didn't realize I wanted to say. It's
like when I was in grad school, and if you weren't the first person to answer the weekly discussion post, they hit all the point. Like, how am I going to put 400 words of yes, I agree with everything he said? You know?
Did you have to reply to them too? Well, you have to do 2 replies.
Do 2 posts and 2 replies. Yeah,
you're just like, I also agree with what you said about this.
It was always something that was like, you raise a lot of really good points about this. You know, like you're hoping to find 1 or 2 sidebars you can kind of insert to get the credit for it. It doesn't feel like, unfortunately, just the thumbs up emoji for agreeing wasn't enough.
Yeah, dude.
I remember those.
That's triggering so many things I forgot about, dude. That's crazy.
So, but the question that Luke asked of, are my characters all sort of slivers of me? A lot of my main characters, actually, I would say every single one of my main characters is, yes, the foundation is Zach James. Because I don't know anyone better than I know myself.
Right.
Yeah.
So I know how I'm going to think, I'm going to react, and all that. But then that's when it goes back to that character development, that unseen backstory. Okay, yes, I know who I am with my moral compass, how I feel about these things, etc. That's going to be the fuel that leads this character into whatever they are. But then I'm going to take those both internal and external factors for the character. And again, this comes in from being well-read, looking into things that you may not experience yourself, but you still do the research. Psychology. I think every writer who does not at least do a cursory delve into the science of psychology is doing themselves a disservice, because how can you know what you don't know? Yeah. And if you want to get into the mindset of someone else, start reading psychology. Even just a basic Psych 101 book, something like that. And Luke, that's your whole bread and butter outside of the writing. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that afterward. But yeah, so it's all the main characters are me, and then I take that block of clay, just to use an analogy, and I mold it into Alex Foley, Dominic Santorini, David Carter from Occupant, John Russo from Containment. You guys haven't met him yet, but John Ambrose in Modern Works Book 6, etc. And then for a lot of my secondary or supporting or just side characters, it will either be inspired by or an amalgamation of friends, family members, associates, people I've met in the past, people I served with, etc. I'll cherry pick 1 or 2 little things of their psychology, their personalities, how they react, etc. And again, mold it into their own. But they're still based in the reality of either myself, and some of the side characters I also pull myself forward. Of, hey, they're going to act like this, and that's how I would act, so I'm going to throw it in there. Or, Containment, the crew of that one was entirely based on the guys I was in Afghanistan with. So it was really easy to write those characters and those interactions because I lived in 90% of them, and then just had to extrapolate a little bit of, hey, what would it be like if we were in space and the future? Oh, this, because I know these guys,
That's awesome.
So that's what I would say goes into those characters. But yes, especially for all of my protagonists, they are slivers of me that then evolve into their own people.
Yeah.
Antagonists, would you say also slivers of you, or are those
absolutely
from somewhere else? Yeah.
Also slivers of me, and again goes back to that psychology piece and understanding mine and your shadow, as Carl Jung would write about and say and call it. All right, what if this happened and I had no moral compass, or I had reached that emotional breaking point, the point of no return? How would I act? And actually, this is something that I'm exploring with the current book that I'm working on when not doing a million other things, which is my cyberpunk book that I've alluded to in the past,
Yeah.
where it actually, the main character starts as a protagonist and ends as an antagonist.
Wow.
Really cool.
Because he goes through just all this emotional turmoil, and just thing after thing after thing happens to him, and he just reaches a breaking point. And so it's the same character, but now, hey, he was, I would say, morally gray, but still on the side of good, to, oh, now he's doing the exact same stuff, but on the flip side, and going against the people that took everything from him.
Wow.
Some good stuff, dude. I like
Yeah,
that.
that is some good stuff.
I need that in my life.
Super exciting, yeah. Very cool.
Zach, we were saying you write a ton, write faster and more, so I can read it.
Dude, so that's what I tell people is I do not have enough hours in the day for all the ideas that are bouncing around in my head. You know,
Yeah.
people like, I wish I had a clone of me so they could work and I could go on vacation. I would need like 7 of me. So I'd be like, you work on this project, you work on this project, you work on this project, you work on this project. I'll do this one. If anyone has any questions, ask each other because you all know, and go.
It's fantastic.
Well,
That'll be
I
one
was
of the book ideas, dude. I'm sure you'll have
It could be,
six
yeah.
Zach James doing.
I know when you said
It's just that SpongeBob meme of where everything's on fire and they're all running around.
Yes.
when you said one of them goes on vacation, I imagine that being you on a beach on your computer working
Also
on a
writing.
book. Yeah, like there's no way he's not going to be doing.
We're all going to scout locations. That's why.
That's what I'm talking about. That's
All book
fantastic.
research.
Number 6, go join the French Foreign Legion and report back what it's like.
Dude, send my number 6 with him. That'll be that's the story there. I want to see that one. Too good.
What about you, Nathaniel?
I think I have to agree. We brought up a lot of good talking points. Sorry, that was
I'm
his
sorry.
discussion board quote. For me, usually it's like, oh, this would be me if I was sick, or this would be me if I was like the idealist
Yeah,
guy to aspire to be like
100%.
her. Oh, this would be me if I was like a little crazy, like a little more crazy. So it usually ends up being that. I think for Nate Colt, he's probably like the closest to my inner monologue, which is basically if I wasn't worried about hurting anyone's feelings and just was saying exactly what was coming to my mind, that's what he's doing the whole time. You know, it's like part of me thinks that you get into the old, Luke, you and I were talking earlier about like Sigma male stuff, and it's like, I think some people would benefit from taking on some of those attributes, but then they would soon take on way too many, and it would be terrible. You know, I think it's the same sort of thing with Nate Colt. Like, I probably would be a better guy if I was like a little more like him, but then there'd be a certain point of no return where I'm like, next thing you know, I'm on top of a building heisting it, and I'm like, what the hell happened? Like, I blinked, and this is not good. So all of that's to say, he's probably the most similar to me. I think like Jacques, he is what I would aspire to be to. Like, you know, like he knows how to handle every situation he finds himself in, and there is less of that, like I said earlier, where you're like, man, what am I supposed to do now? Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. So he's a lot more confident. I don't know, it's just, you just take things that you find lacking in yourself and you kind of factor them in, is how I see it. Or things that you like about yourself and you heighten them. Like, I feel like that's usually how it goes for me. The antagonist question is really good though. For antagonist, I feel like that is always kind of maybe a dark reflection of the character. So after, like, he's like me twice removed, kind of, you know what I mean? Where like he's like the character who's like me loosely, but the bad guy may not necessarily be like me because he's so far removed from the source. But it also made me start thinking about writing. There's a lot of female characters that I write, and that made me, when you were talking about all the people you know and filling out your cast and stuff like that, I definitely, for sure, Butch in the Crime is My Caper story, he is Butch, and I honestly should put some sort of credit in the back of the book for him, because for probably 12 years of our lives, I was Nate Colt and he was Butch, and we were running around in the backyard fighting bad guys together. So that was just like, basically I took one of our adventures out there and put it right into a book, you know, and it was like, all right, this is definitely that guy. And what's funny is Luke was picturing another one of my friends. I was like, yeah, dude, you got it all
Not
wrong.
that
It's
guy.
this friend. So for sure, I have the friend thing. When it comes to writing female characters, though, I definitely don't feel like I'm operating off of how women I know act, because even when I try to think of like how my wife, who I know better than anyone, would respond to something, I'm like, I have no idea. This is so far removed from like my wife's never been shot at. I don't know what she would do. Like that's like a personal thing that she would have to explain to me. I mean, I actually do know what she would do because she tells me all the time. As soon as guns start going off, she's pretending to be dead, and she's staying pretended to be dead until they leave. That's her deal. It's so interesting to like. It's definitely, I've seen different memes and stuff where it's like women written by men, and she's like super seductive and always saying the things like, oh, I know how much you're interested in me, and then it's like women written by women and they're just normal people. And it's like, I don't know how to bridge the gap and bring those together, but because I do really enjoy liking female characters, so it's for sure written. I think you can probably tell it's written by a man when you read them, but I digress. Yeah, it's a great question. I for sure feel like it's almost embarrassing whenever I think about it. It's like, bro, I'm literally just writing like wish fulfillment for my own life. You know, like I'm just writing how sick I wish I could be.
Isn't that all writing though? At some level, it's wish fulfillment by the characters or ideals or worlds or
set pieces,
governments, whatever. Set pieces, yeah.
Yeah, you're like, this is how the world is, and this is how that would work. Let me tell you. See, I explained it in this book. This is how it happens. So you can
take my ideologies and ram them down your
exactly.
You're gonna pay me.
I won't use any subtlety. It'll be a jackhammer the whole time. Please read this.
Also, I had to stop myself from laughing when Daniel goes, my wife doesn't know what it's like to be shot at. I just pictured like, hey honey, do you want to go to the range? I want to try something.
Let's try this.
Yeah, stand there. Don't freak out. Actually, do freak out. I need to know how you react.
Let me also hedge that with saying like I also don't know what it's like to be shot at, but I know for sure that she doesn't even have an inkling, because we'll start talking about a situation. I'll be like, yeah, and then I would like try and do this, and she's like, how often do you think of this? I'm like, all the time. I'm thinking about this every second.
Like, I had an ex-girlfriend. I have an ex-girlfriend of mine who I'm still friends with. She's also a writer, and I forget how it came up, but it was something about she was worried that someone had broken into her condo and like in the middle of the night, and she'd been scared or whatever. And I was like, like wouldn't have been a thing. She's like, what? Like, wait, you wouldn't be worried about that? I'm like, I daydream about scenarios like that. Are you kidding me? That's what I think about when I'm at work. Yeah, I'm not worried about the Excel spreadsheet in front of me. I'm like, what would I do if someone broke in and they had like a hostage and a drug, and like I only had like 3 bullets and I was shot. Yeah. And I'd be John Wick. Okay.
Yeah, it would be easy. I got it locked in up here. Yeah, I agree.
Hostage shot, nothing. Easy day. Meanwhile, real life.
That kind of thoughts all day, every day. You know, like you said, you're in the Zoom meeting, like zoned out. They're like, "You with us?" You're like, oh yeah, totally. Wasn't thinking about. Like if someone tried to steal my car later, like what would I do? Would I drive faster and just try to pull them along? Would I fight? Like,
yeah, dude. I mean, I literally probably every Sunday, about 2/3 of the way through the sermon, I'm thinking about how I would react to a church shooting without
every day for me too. Every time.
And then I'm like,
wait a minute, it was a fortunate reality that we have to deal with.
Yeah, that's what sucks about it, is that it's like not just weird daydreaming fantasies. It's like you're thinking about that for a reason. And
right.
Too real of a reason. Which sucks. That's why I couldn't be a teacher. There's no way, dude. I'd be my whole mind every day would be that. I'd be like, all right, I can't do this anymore. I'm quitting. See ya.
Get more police over here.
Hyper vigilant. Can't pay attention.
But you've got to answer the question now, my friend. So what about you? How these characters line up for you?
I think it's like the character is me probably trying to explore or explain or pull a thread that I notice with myself or with somebody else. And so each character is going to pull on different threads and look at different things. And that's why I think it is so helpful to write. And even if you're not a writer, you should be journaling and stuff, is because it's such a good way to like turn a worldview tactile and spin it around and look at all the edges and just see, test out an experiment of what that worldview looks like and what that would lead to. Like back to the psychology point of like, there are patterns that these people study, and there are certain things that will repeat, and you can kind of get a sense of that type of character or that type of character. And then when you're really in that character, when you're trying to get so in their shoes that you're writing their world, it's like, what better way to understand it then? And then I come out of these stories feeling like I understand myself better, I understand the world better, and I wouldn't do that if I didn't have all those hours exploring and all those hours of research outside of it, being like, okay, I need to learn a bit more about that. Let me go check, more on things that would help with that. So it's just such a fulfilling process to pull these threads, and it makes my life feel so much fuller. And that's why I don't, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many people do or do not read the books or how quickly they'll be forgotten after I'm dead. It's like, this was the way to live my life. This was fun. I liked this. This was the way to do it. So it's all been like a fun experimental way to be that continual learner, I guess, like be the student forever. And then, to your point, really, I mean, I'd be so bored if not. What would I do with all this stuff? Like you said, what would happen in my brain? Just be bouncing this stuff around. But I can agree with you too that Noah is just wish fulfillment as well in a lot of senses too, where it's like, this is if I were sick, and that helps. That helps.
Something you said was super interesting to me, of kind of like, I really like that idea, and I don't know if I've thought about it that way. It's almost like, okay, well, I've always wanted to do this, or this has always been something cool in my mind, and then you're kind of allowing yourself to have that happen in almost like an alternate reality, which I think could be like super therapeutic in the way of like, I always make the joke that it would be cool to be a criminal. But if you actually took that in like a real sense, like that's what Nate Cold is in a very fantastical sense, right? Like he's not having to deal with the law. The law is hardly ever talked about, but everything he does, he would probably be arrested for. And so you could definitely go down the avenue of like, oh, I've always had this like crazy idea in mind of things I should do. I can't try it out, but maybe I can write about it. And it's like, oh, well, by chapter 3, he ended up in jail. Okay, I shouldn't do that with my life. Like it's almost like a battleground or a test market to see what you should actually do with your life. So I think that's a really good point about journaling, to kind of just work through things like you instead of overthinking.
Get your thoughts on it,
Yeah. Instead of overthinking, you can write down like, all right, well then this happened, and then what happened after that, and it's almost like, oh, well that's how that could have gone down. And then you can file that away and never think about it again.
Right. Cool. Thanks for answering my question and indulging me, fellas. I appreciate that. It's always good to talk to other writers. That's why other writers, it's so easy to be like an isolated writer. Gotta not do that. Be a writer in community. Talk to other writers. It's so fun. Yeah, it's so rewarding to have good conversations with other writers.
Which I've got another question, unless Zach, if you had any, you can drop them on us. But otherwise, I'll hit you guys with this.
I have two just dumb questions.
Bring it.
First off, Luke, you wear one of those old James Bond Seikos where it's got the square thing.
Oh, yeah.
I thought I noticed that.
This is like a Casio World Timer.
Oh, okay. So it's the Casio version of what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Nice. Classic.
And it's super helpful so there's like no clock in my office as a counselor. So I'll flip it upside down like I'm like a mechanic in the war or something and just casually keep check of the time.
Mechanic in the war. I like that.
And I'm just subtly being like, all right, you have to leave now.
It's time to go.
And my other absolutely just nonsensical question, but this is the sprinkling of stupidity that I have. That globe behind you there, Luke.
Yeah.
The country to the northeast of South Africa, which is bordering Zambia, which has Zambia bordering it to the west. What country is that?
Clear in Africa. And you're saying northeast?
It also starts with Z. Potentially.
Dude, I'm failing geography now because I came. What did you say? Northeast from what?
Does that globe say Zimbabwe or Rhodesia?
If I could find it, I would tell you.
Southern
Zambia?
Africa.
Looking at Zambia.
And then to the
South
east
Africa?
of Zambia.
Tanzania, Kenya, Ethiopia. Where we at?
South.
South. Zimbabwe.
Okay, you
Zambia.
you need to take a Sharpie and X out Zimbabwe and write Rhodesia.
Okay. Dude, this is. I already lost it again. This is too much to look at.
I knew I should have asked this. I've completely derailed the conversation.
No, this is a good conversation.
Hold on. I found it again. Yes.
There was a whole
It's in
segment
Zimbabwe.
in Mercs in Rhodesia, right?
So it was Zimbabwe that then turned into New Rhodesia. But I do also have a
Super
prequel
sick
book
stuff.
that takes place in Rhodesia back in the 70s.
I love it. I love it, dude. It's so fantastic.
Did I ever have I told you guys that I actually work with a no shit Rhodesian?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have not known. I have not heard
He
that,
was
no.
born there. He was in the Rhodesian Air Force at the end of the war. Yeah, super cool dude.
Wow.
That's really cool.
That is definitely a part of history and like a context that is just blank in my mind. I've only seen a few things about it and read a few like fiction things about it, but I don't think I've ever went down the real nonfiction rabbit hole of that
I
scenario.
agree. I also I think
prevent
I
this
know
from
most
becoming
about
a
it.
3-hour podcast. I won't get too into it.
We'll have you back on the Rhodesia podcast episode.
Got some camo I can wear for that too.
Don't they also wear the shorts? We'll have to all roll up in the Rhodesian shorts. That'll be cool.
We have to all stand on our things. We can show off the shorts.
It'll be shorts down, shorts to boots.
It's the thigh cam. That's all it is.
This is going to be the best episode of all time. Thigh cam version of the Rhodesian history. We're giving the fact change for 3 hours.
Dude, that would get tons of views. I can guarantee you that would be like one of the most famous videos on YouTube ever.
Oh, it's so funny.
So this actually brings me to the question perfectly. You magnificently handle, I think, humor and high stakes. So how does that work in your mind? Where there's stuff that I read from yours where I'm laughing out loud, and then immediately next page, next chapter, whatever it is, you're like, I'm in it. Like, this is thick. I'm having a hard time breathing because it's so intense, you know? So how does that kind of work in your head? And then further that question, how is it for you? You just said you're working on 14 projects at a time. Do you have to like take on a new personality when you jump books? Or how does that all work for you?
So for the personality question, I would say they all have the same, it's all from the mind of Zach James. Right. It's just, there are parts that there are certain things that I want to hit on that I will emphasize more than other things.
Okay.
So for this cyberpunk book that I'm working on, I want to hit on more of the oppressive dystopia factors while still keeping some of the humor in. Whereas with the Mercs, I want it to be a little more true to life of where those things can happen back to back or sometimes simultaneously, where things are going down and we're cracking jokes because we're getting shot at or whatever.
Yeah.
But there is definitely a personality shift, and I think it goes in line with, because the book and the setting is kind of a character in itself along with the actual characters that you're dealing with. And that's real easy for me because I'm just playing the movie in my head. So whatever's up there, and this goes back to, I think, the very first talk I ever had with Luke about playing the movie in my head. But it's all right. What's the scene? Is it sunny out? Is it sunny and smoggy? Is it oppressively dark and rainy all the time? Because that's also going to affect the characters along with the set.
That's a really good point.
You find me someone who's in a mega city in 2074 where it's been raining for 6 months, and they're probably not going to be like, it's a great day, unless they're about to get paid. So, because they're sold a kidney or something like that. So that, I think, answered the personality question. I hope it did.
For sure. That's a great answer.
As for the whole back-to-back, hey, we're laughing, and all of a sudden we're in it. That's just how life goes sometimes. Where, and again, it kind of goes to the movie thing where sometimes you get those hard cuts where it's just like it's so jarring you have to laugh.
Yeah.
You went from a lighthearted thing to now they're in the Battle of Ardennes Forest or whatever, of that just level of intensity. And I've been, I would say, fortunate enough to experience some real life situations where it's kind of like that. It just, you got to roll with the punches, and we're not laughing anymore because things just got serious. But also, we're probably going to crack a joke while it's happening because that's how we cope with these things. An example that I always think back to, just for because it's funny, but it's also influenced some of those things. Is I was in Afghanistan this was probably around May or June of 2019, and we were all taking a break. We were all out at the smoke pit next to the building we worked in on this little mountaintop outpost. And everyone's sitting there smoking and joking, and I'm sitting there trying to light my pipe with this crappy lighter that I just could not get to catch. And we're sitting there, and all of a sudden there's a bunch of tracer fire in one direction. We're like, that's kind of weird. And then we look, and there's a bunch of tracer fire in another direction. Then we look at the tracer fire behind us. We're like, we should probably go inside. I don't think staying outside would be the most prudent decision right now. Ended up being completely benign. They were just celebrating Afghanistan beating Pakistan in a cricket match, but still sort of like, this might get bad, but all right, let's go back inside.
That's crazy.
I think back to things like that, or when I worked security in the hospital, and we would be smoking a joke, and then the next second we are in a fist fight, and four of us are dogpiling some big BHU patient who just snapped, even though we were kind of there, just whatever, having a conversation, and then it went from 0 to 100 like that. So
crazy.
It's just, I would say for me, it's just those real world experiences, and all while being very conscious to avoid the Marvel style, well, that just happened dialogue. Whenever that happens, something I'm reading, it makes me want to shot put the book I'm reading through the nearest window. So, that's how that visual sort of
use it to light your pipe
in my mind. I should, yeah. That or it's going to be toilet paper.
That's good stuff, dude. I like that.
Also, I'm very happy to hear that I've written things that can make you laugh out loud.
I particularly love the real world stories that it's coming from. Like those are some sick stories, and I relate to the usually when things are bad, I gotta joke about it. Otherwise, I'm gonna start crying or something. I gotta laugh.
It's an emotional release. Yeah.
Right.
How about you, Luke? How does all that stuff kind of go together in your mind?
Dude, I don't know if I've ever written anything funny. I don't know if I've done that. But to the point of the concept, I do think that it's super human. Like, it's a very human thing to do, is to, like you said, make jokes and gallows humor. They usually, they say to people in the military and people in first responders of any kind, it's like that's their humor because it's one of the best ongoing coping mechanisms to be in that world. It's like, Lord, you're going to be miserable if not, if you can't make some light of it. And so I think it is a very human reaction to it, and also to Zach's point of it's just life. I think if a story is too much one way, then it's not a full enough picture. It's people are funny, and also things get really serious. Like, my friend makes really good jokes, but also he's going through something horrible. Like, these things, it would just make a fuller, truer picture to have both in there and to do both. So maybe I need to add more humor in my books, is what we're saying.
Well, Cold Heartedness, definitely. There was some times where I was laughing with Gun Law.
Sure. The most humorous I've probably gotten is with that one.
I think the back and forth between Sal and Noah and Fighting Heart of Man was really funny. But that was fun because we got to play off of each other's humor.
Right.
What about you? You have written vastly different genres, from stuff with Frozen Wrath, which was a lot more heavy and serious, and then having more lighthearted stuff and more stuff that's hopeful. How is that? Is that also a personality shift, or does it all? How's that work for you?
I think it goes back to that idea of becoming and finding yourself more and growing. Because the reason I shifted out of that was my real life of having a kid and thinking about those questions of like, what do I want to leave behind? What kind of narrative? Just like, what is Frozen Wrath leaving him message wise, and what do I want to change with that when he's picking up the books that dad wrote and thinking that's what my dad thought, you know? So it was like, it was real life, you know, influencing it, and it's being in tune and self-aware and introspective enough to work with and play with your worldviews enough. So that shifted me away from what I was doing, which was like the more nihilistic version, like a darker, grittier version, and then being like, I want, even though it's not as realistic, I want to give ideals. I want to give aspirational hope to my son. I would rather, you know, realism be damned. I want to go that route because I think it's important. Because like Rocky for me was so impactful, you know, and it's not the most realistic story or anything, but it's an ideal, you know. And I still got, yeah, baby, got the, you know, the shorts. Like this is a huge influence.
Dude, you
every day of my life
for the Rhodesian episode.
That's right.
But like,
those are super cool.
You need to have the ideals, and so that hopefully that answers your question. But yeah, it's just the introspection. Which, like, introspection mixed with writing is not only going to lead to better writing, but it's going to lead to better versions of yourself, like, for sure.
It's super interesting because it makes me wonder, does your introspection follow your writing, or your writing follow your introspection? You know what I mean? I don't know how to even...
Chicken and egg.
Built on itself.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
Yeah, I really do think it's all mixed and it's all happening, like you said, simultaneously. And I like the way it happened and when it was happening. I was like halfway through a draft of Vipers, which was the third, and so like I almost had to like reverse out of that mid-series, you know what I mean? And so you can kind of I was experiencing the transition in real time.
I think that the way you pivoted that in Vipers was masterfully done.
Oh, thank you, man.
Like that was because there are a lot of ways that could have gone wrong or felt ham-fisted. Goes back to that joke we made of I'm going to cram it down
here. My worldview.
You did such a good literary pirouette with that mindset. And when he had that moment where it clicked of like, oh, I'm going to live for more than just the revenge and going against everyone who wronged me was so well done.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And that would not have happened if I did not have the sun and then, you know, think about what I was thinking about. So
that's super
introspection, dude, is how you got to do it, I would say, as a writer. So thank you for the kind words again. Seriously. Means a lot, especially coming from you. And also, you all know me. I'm like one of the most insecure writers as far as soon as I write it, I hate it. It's the worst. That's suck. You know what I mean? Like, as soon as it's out, I'm like, that's horrible. What are you doing? I do that.
One of my favorite quotes from Luke recently. To figure out what the quote was, and for the rest of this week's thrilling episode, tune in next week. For now, this has been the Men's Adventure Fiction Podcast. Thanks for joining us.